Hello everyone, I'm bringing a video today looking at an East German UFT 721 radio. This is something which has cropped up on the channel previously and basically formed part of a recreation of kit on the mannequin. We didn't look at it in any great detail, so I thought it was worth making a video here looking at this in a bit more detail. There isn't a huge amount of technical information in this video, but I will put a pinned comment down below with a link to a website entry that deals with some of the technical specifications for this. And there's also a card later in the video linking through to a video on YouTube where one of these is actually stripped down and it shows the circuit diagram, the internal circuit boards of both the radio itself and the loudspeaker microphone. So worth going and having a look at that as well. But we're going to have a look at this, the carry case, and talk a little bit about the use of this radio as well. So here it is, the UFT 721 radio. Now, unfortunately, don't have an introduction date for this. When it was first produced, I believe in the 1970s, and used into the mid 1980s when it was replaced and began to be replaced by later examples. These were not only used by Grenztruppen, which is the primary interest I have in these, but they were actually used by the police as well in East Germany, and by the railways, by industries that required this sort of thing. They were ubiquitous. They were used all over the place. So they're not simply a military item, although they were used by the military. It's a relatively simple two-way radio, and it has a range of about 5 kilometers, something like that, in good terrain. I'm not going to go into too many of the specs here. They're readily available online, the battery voltage, the wavelength, and various other things. There is also a video on YouTube where a chap tears one of these down and shows all the internal workings, the circuits and so forth inside, and also circuit diagrams. I'll put a card to that in the corner of the video here, should you wish to go and have a look at that. I recommend it, it's quite interesting. I'm certainly not going to be tearing this one down. This is one I have for display. I'm not aware whether it works or not. I've not tested it, but as I say, it's for display primarily, and for that reason, obviously, I'm not going to be taking this apart. Comes in this leather carrier, as you can see here. These are generally the type of carrier that was used with this radio. We'll talk about it first of all. Obviously, it's on the outside, so before we look at the radio within here, we'll have a look at the carrier. This is made of black pebble grain leather, as you can see here. You have D-rings riveted onto each side with these leather shapes to take the shoulder strap. You have a leather section that comes across the top here around these two sockets with a snap or press stud there to secure the radio into the body of the carrier. On the back here, we have a belt loop formed by this section of leather, which is riveted in place with these 8 rivets around here. And you also have an opening here to get to the battery compartment. Now, obviously, the battery is missing from this, which is common. The battery is obviously degraded, but you would normally have a battery in here which would connect onto these pins, but that is missing from this. But you can see the details on this plate underneath here. Get the light in there. Obviously, you can pause here if you wish to have a closer look at this. As I say, this is where the battery would fit. So if you needed to change the battery, you can get into the bottom of the carrier using this flap. And obviously, with the bottom of the carrier closed like that, you can't tell there isn't a battery there. So from a display point of view, that's absolutely fine. As I say, this forms a belt loop, but this D-ring here at the top also allows this to operate with a belt clip to clip onto the belt. And I believe that's one of the purposes for this type of snap hook on a belt loop. We may well have a look in a future video at the anti-riot baton, the East German riot baton, which I've shown in previous videos. It's been formed part of, recreation of kit in previous videos. Also use these to attach onto the belt, but I believe it is also for use with this D-ring on the back here. So this could be carried on the shoulder strap, but also clipped onto this to help carry the weight and obviously stabilize it, stop it swinging around on the hip. That's my understanding behind these and the D-ring there. So just an additional method of securing this and carrying it securely. The shoulder strap itself, as you can see here, is also made of leather. It has a plastic stud on each end. It's doubled back on itself through the D-ring, and then the plastic stud is used to secure each end, secure the end of the strap, as you can see there. We see here there is an antenna running up inside the shoulder strap, which is quite a neat feature of the design. Raises the antenna up, and that's also held in place with a plastic stud here, as you can see. So that's quite a neat feature, in my opinion. I quite like the way that works in terms of having the antenna running up the shoulder strap. You have adjustment here. It is in 2 pieces, so you can see here we have a buckle, a keeper there, and then a leather slide here to keep the loose end neat. It's riveted in place there, and that allows this to be adjusted in. So it's a 2-piece shoulder strap. Carrying on round here, we have another buckle, and this attaches this leather section here. Now, if I remove it's a little bit stiff, but if I remove the loudspeaker microphone from There we go. From this piece you can see we have a slot cut in there which allows the loudspeaker microphone to be clipped up onto the shoulder strap, and using the same holes as is used for the buckle which adjusts this in, you can move this up and down the strap to a convenient position to carry this on the chest ready to use. So that's quite a neat feature as well, and that again is just, you can see, riveted construction there and the buckle to hold it in place. On the back of the loudspeaker microphone there is of course a plastic hook which hooks into there, as you can see, and when that slots in it holds it nice and secure, as you can see. So the shoulder strap comes down, there are holes all the way down this to allow for adjustment, apart from the last section down here, and that of course means that you can adjust this in. There's lots of adjustment for where you carry the loudspeaker microphone. From the carrier, using this inside the carrier, we'll have a quick look at it outside of the carrier in just a minute. I'll remove it from the carrier as well. The various controls here, and you have off and then channel selection here, and two other controls which I'm not entirely sure what they relate to, but you have the various channel selections there, I believe, and you have 4 channel options. And obviously you have the sockets at this end for the loudspeaker microphone, which is this gold one, the gold plug in this socket here, and then the black one at the back here runs off to the antenna, as you can see. So that's the top of the radio here. I'll take this out of the carrier now and we can have a quick look at it outside the carrier. I'll need to remove these in order to do that, so we'll come back to this in just a minute. So as you can see, we now have this broken down into its component parts, less the battery. Obviously we're missing the battery as already mentioned. There are no further markings on this other than a pen marking here, 306, which would be the number of this radio. But you can see it's the radio itself is a relatively small item. The battery would be another section off the bottom there, about 1 inch, 2.5 centimeters deep off the bottom there. Other than that, the actual unit itself, the radio itself, is quite small. Obviously with the rest of the gubbins that's associated with this, it's nevertheless quite a bulky item to carry. We have the radio there, as I say, and you can see details of the 2 connectors there for the antenna and the loudspeaker microphone there, details of those. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the loudspeaker microphone itself. Obviously you can see the connector there, the multi-pin connector, that has a screw attachment there for attaching that securely. This is a UBT70 loudspeaker microphone. I believe, and I'm going to run through this, that the large button here is your press to talk, basically your transmit button. These two here I'm not entirely sure about. They may be remote controls from the body of the radio to be able to change functions using the handset, using the loudspeaker microphone, rather than using the controls on top of the radio. I'm not entirely sure on that, so anyone who could advise on that, I'd be interested to know. The chap who did the teardown on this doesn't actually identify what the buttons are for. So, as I say, if anyone could advise, perhaps someone who used one of these, it'd be interesting to know. I've not been able to find information online regarding the use of those 2 buttons. As I say, I believe the large oblong button is the push to talk, the transmit button. And obviously this would act both as a microphone and also as a speaker. So you would hear through this and also speak through it as well. As already mentioned, you have the plastic hook on the back there. There's a little panel, little label missing from there, unfortunately. This is similar to the later design that will be introduced as well, which is something we'll have a look at in a future video. A little bit beaten up, but not in bad condition, and certainly fit for display. So that's the loudspeaker microphone there, the radio in the middle, less battery of course, and the leather carrier for it here, which has the antenna as part of that. And we'll just have a quick look at the plug for that there. You can see that. So that's the antenna, as I say, which is fitted into the shoulder strap. Quite a neat element of the design. So there we are. Quick look at this radio, the UFT 721. You can see marked on the top there. Quite an interesting bit of kit to have, and a very useful item in terms of ground trooping kit, used by the Army as well to a degree, used by the MVA. So a useful bit of East German kit to have, and quite an interesting piece to have as well. So I hope you found it interesting looking at this. There will be a video going forward looking at the later iteration of this sort of style of radio that was somewhat updated and introduced in the mid-1980s. We'll have a look at that in some detail as well. If you'd like to see that, or if you'd like to see the further content on the channel more generally, and you haven't already, please do consider subscribing. And whether you're newly subscribing or previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.